Hello and welcome to Indie Dev Life, the show where we try to give you an insight into the lives and experiences of indie game developers. Today we have Claudio Bozzotta, creator of Fearful Symmetry. Without further ado, let's begin.
So to all GaminGHD viewers, I'm Claudio Bozzotta, developer of Fearful Symmetry, and I'm 26 years old. I'm coming from Palermo, a sunny city in the south of Italy, a location that I strongly recommend you to consider for your summer holidays, not really much for the rest. But yeah, moving on. I am recently graduated in game design and production management, attending the course at Haberty University in Dundee. And now moving to the questions. So question number one, how did it all begin? It's actually pretty hard to tell because everything began some time ago. I mean, yeah, you have to go back to the time in which I was just a hobbyist. I started being like a hobbyist since I was 12 years old. I was mainly using Game Maker at that time. And, you know, I was the kind of person that was never concluding a project. I was just developing for fun, small games, demos, or, you know, sometimes big projects that were destined to never be done. It was just fun to see, you know, sprites moving in the screen, interacting with each other. So moving back to the question. Basically, I was a bit tired of, you know, just being an hobbyist, and I was considering the idea of moving to serious development, having a career in game development. And so even before starting my studies, I tried to, you know, think about a mechanic that could allow me to create a game around it. And it should have been simple because I wasn't really technical at the time. And at the same time, it should have allowed me to create a small game that I could easily, you know, complete and finally publish. So actually at the very beginning of the story, I proposed this idea to a friend. He really liked it, and he was supposed to take care of all the hard assets, and I was supposed to take care of the programming and the development itself. But yeah, he very soon has lost interest in the project, and so I was left alone. And yeah, I decided to do it anyway. I decided to start, you know, practicing with pixel art, animation, other things. And yeah, at the time, Fearful Symmetry was just, you know, the bare bones, a core mechanic that was some way working, and two really ugly characters moving on the screen. So yeah, after that I had to leave Italy to study in Scotland, and you know, everything changed with that because I learned new things, new skills. I came to know Unity, Unreal, all these kind of things. But yeah, you know, I still had that Game Maker project in a folder of my laptop. So, you know, I was kind of attached to that project, and I decided to continue working on it as a, yeah, in the spare time, as a side project. And yeah, one day at some point, one of my friends suggested me to start an Indiegogo campaign to try to raise funds to make the game bigger. Because yeah, I was always telling him that, yeah, having money, I would have probably hired an artist, because at that time I was feeling a bit, I was really critic about my art, let's say. So I wasn't really confident in me publishing this game on my own. But yeah, what happened next was that the Indiegogo campaign wasn't exactly a success. And so I ended up being on my own again. Luckily, a couple of friends gave me a hand. One of them making the awesome trailer I used for the campaign, and the other one basically drawing a sketch of the cover image of the game. After that, I kind of remade the same picture in a pixel version. So thanks to both, I had something, to promote the game at least. And yeah, the game was something. There were levels, game design done, and so I decided to try to go on Greenlight. Yeah, to try Steam. Why not? And yeah, the cool thing was that it worked. It worked probably because I mean, the concept itself was quite simple to grasp for people, and the trailer was professional looking, and it was quite effective at explaining the main mechanic. And on the other end, yeah, there was this awesome looking cover image. Everything was looking very professional. I think these ingredients were very important for the success of the Greenlight thing. But yeah, moving on. So the next question is, why did you want to become a developer? Yeah, this is a complex one. Let's say that I've always been an artsy kind of guy. I mean, I really liked writing back in the days. I even published a novel when I was in high school. So yeah, creating in general is something I was always interested in. And at the same time, I was pretty passionate about games as well. There were a couple of games in particular that were kind of obsessing me. One of those was Zelda. I kind of always dreamed of creating my own Zelda game, my own universe, So yeah, I had this kind of interests, and in the meanwhile, I was studying medicine, and I wasn't exactly happy with my life, let's say. I had this kind of existential crisis in which I started thinking about the future and my life in 20 years, my life as a doctor. And yeah, I kind of like medicine. I really enjoy learning new things and biology, but for some reason it wasn't enough. I felt that. So yeah, I decided to make a move, do something, maybe moving to Scotland. Yeah, from Italy to Scotland. Yeah, it's quite a change, especially for the weather, I can tell you. Um, so, well, moving on. Did your friends and family encourage you to become a game developer? Okay, let's say that my father is a doctor, and so it wasn't exactly the happiest person in the world when I told him that I didn't want to do medicine anymore. And my mother wasn't exactly happy when I told her that I was going to move to Scotland. So yeah, you can imagine how it worked. But I have to admit that they soon changed their mind. I mean, they kind of understood that that was my path. Those were my decisions, and yeah, I made my mind. And so yeah, I have to admit that they become like my first source of encouragement, and yeah, they really stood to my side during those years. It was tough, but yeah, thanks to them and the support of my friends, of course, and my girlfriend, yeah, now ex-girlfriend, everything went fine. But yeah, moving on. What was your first interaction with video games, and what was it like? To talk about this, we have to go back in the NES days. Yeah, because I remember like me going to my cousin's place and watching them playing things like Super Mario Bros. Or Donkey Kong Country on the NES. And yeah, it was amazing. As a child, I never had seen anything like that, and I, of course, was fascinated by that. After that, yeah, my parents bought me a Nintendo 64, and yeah, that was the beginning, basically. My first game was Super Mario 64, and I remember playing a lot of it back in the days. And yeah, after that, probably the game that changed my childhood the most was Zelda Majora's Mask, which was the first Zelda game I was playing, I ever played. And as you can tell, as you know probably if you play the game, everything was kind of messed up and dark, and yeah, it blew up my mind. I can just say that. And yeah, that was my first interaction. Now I play game of all genres and sorts, and I own a PlayStation 4, and I become a fan of Dark Souls, I'd say, because I recently discovered this series, and I played the first, the second, the third, and yeah, now I'm enjoying the DLCs. It's quite cool. But yeah, moving on to the other questions. It's quite a long way to the end of this video, so we should hurry. What's your favorite character from video games? No, I honestly don't know this one. That's really hard. But okay, if I have to choose one, Probably Flowey the flower from Undertale. Yes. Yeah, because yeah, emblematic character of the game, pretty messed up, pretty intense. It has a really deep backstory, etc., etc. So my childhood game, I already talked about that. What was the most memorable thing that you've met in a game? Okay. Probably you will think about something in my past, or something like that, but no, probably the most memorable thing I've seen in a game was in The Witness, a game that I think every aspiring game developer should play. The Witness was an incredible experience. I played it with some friends. We were like gathering in the evenings and trying to solve the riddles together. And now I will go with spoilers, because there were two amazing moments that I will never forget, that I experienced with this game. One of those was when I figured out the triangle puzzle solution, because in the game there is this, you have to understand the meaning of every symbol, and every symbol is then used in puzzles, and there was this triangle symbol that was totally out of place, and there was something different about it. You weren't really encountering it in normal puzzles, and we immediately understood there was something weird and wrong about that symbol, and it was part of the final secret solution of the game. And I basically remember I figured out the solution before arriving there on my own, and it was during an evening in which I came back home after The Witness session, and I had a picture of the triangle puzzle in my phone. And I was looking at it, and I felt this profound feeling of understanding there was something wrong with that. I mean, understanding that the solution was there, that solution was in front of my nose, but I wasn't able to see that. And after that, all of a sudden I saw it, I saw the solution, and I was so happy that I called my friends, even if it was late in the night, and amazing. And the other amazing moment in The Witness was probably when I figured out that it was actually possible to draw puzzles in the videos, the videos you collect. That was astonishing. I mean, that game had an incredible potential of, surprising you, because it was, the genius thing about The Witness is that it's like defining some rules and then constantly breaking these rules when you don't expect that. And I think that's, a really genius lesson of design from Jonathan Blow. Moving on. Next question. How are your brainstorming sessions going? Well, considering that I don't have a team, I don't really have brainstorming sessions, but I do use some techniques to, try to bring some fresh air to my brain if I want to, for example, design a specific level or, think about something new. Something I generally do, but that's not really a technique. It's like going for a walk in a place that I know that it's pretty quiet, and so that I can think while I'm walking, and that's really helping a lot, because moving out from your studio, moving out from your house and going outside is like exposing yourself to a lot of different stimuli, exposing yourself to novelty, to new things, and your brain is kind of working better, I think, in this condition, so you can think more freely. And something a bit more organized that I tend to do sometimes is that, for example, if let's say I have to think about a new trap for a new level, so I may end up taking the dictionary and finding two random words and trying to connect these words to my game in some way and see what happens, what kind of new ideas these words are bringing to the table. That can be really interesting. But yeah, moving on. What's the cause of misunderstanding in my team? No, we don't really have misunderstanding, not with myself. How does that affect the work environment? Well, yeah, that's not a problem for me at the moment, luckily, but I had experience of teamwork, and I know that misunderstandings are pretty common. So again, I think the best solution to try to avoid all this is to be really balanced as a person and trying to be, really empathetic, and to listen to the needs and the reasons of the other people and communicate a lot. Communication is incredibly important, and a team that is not communicating is not really a team that can work. So yeah, I'd say communication is the most important thing in that. So next, what are your favorite games and genres? That's really interesting. Well, games. Let's say that I started my experience as a gamer with, Nintendo games, as I said, and I become really keen on the Zelda series. But I wouldn't restrain myself to that, because I'm actually passionate about games in general, and rather than defining a genre, I generally prefer to define what are the things that I look for in a game. And I'd say that I generally look for something that can give me that sense of adventure, of exploration, of mystery, and yeah, the fascination of the secret, of something to unravel. So you can probably see puzzle games in that, and I do develop puzzle games, but yeah, I wouldn't say that puzzle games are my favorite genre. I would be more oriented on something like, you know, RPGs and stuff like that. And yeah, thinking about the games, let's say I enjoyed a wide variety of games lately. I was really surprised by the indie scene. Like I said, Journey, Bread, The Witness, Undertale, everything of those games was literally amazing. Speaking about AAAs, I really enjoyed Dark Souls recently, The Witcher, yeah, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I recently played that. Moving on to the next question. What type of games do you create? Yeah, I already answered to that. I created a puzzle game, so yeah, I create puzzle games at the moment. But I would like to dedicate myself to something bigger, more complex, because puzzles are not everything I want to develop. You know, I really enjoy developing puzzles because there is this sense of mystery you can convey to the player, the sense of unraveling something, understanding something. But I'd really like to convey other kind of feelings, like I said, the feeling of exploration, of yeah, even like becoming stronger, like in RPGs. What are you specialized in, and how did you get to do that? So that's interesting, because people coming out of my course are generally considered jack of all trades, when we are not considered idea guys. Because yeah, game design is about knowing how things work, how all the other people in the team work, and knowing a bit of everything, a bit of programming, a bit of graphic, a bit of, yeah, sound design, why not? So let's say that I'm not specialized in anything in particular. In the game I developed, Fearful Symmetry, I've done everything on my own. Graphic, programming. So moving on to the next question. Considering the fact that there are plentiful of engines available for indie developers, would you use one of those or make one? Let's say that, considering that I'm not strictly technical, I wouldn't make one. And in general, I think making one is important only in those situations in which your core mechanic can't be implemented with the tools available in the other engines, because, you know, game development is also about managing your resources, so you can't really afford wasting time making your engine if something can easily be done in a ready-made engine. So yeah, that's how I see things. I tend to stick with you know, Unity and Unreal. Yeah, I would use one of those probably. So next question. Where do you draw inspiration from? For this game, I don't know. I guess having two characters at the same time, controlling two characters at the same time is not really a new idea. It was used before in many other games. So, you know, somewhere in my brain I had this, and I kind of draw inspiration from that. More in general, I tend to draw inspiration from, you know, a variety of media, like, you know, movies, animes. I try to, you know, do a bit of everything. You know, having a full life, experiencing new things can really help you with inspiration. And then, yes, probably having some time to let your mind think and, you know, think about things. Yeah. That's probably everything you need to have inspiration. When you begin a new project, what's the first thing that you work on? The story, the gameplay, or the graphics? Well, I haven't started many projects recently, but I honestly think that the very first thing one should think about is the core mechanic of the game. I mean, so the mechanics, the gameplay, because I strongly believe that games should revolve around, yeah, nice mechanics. And yeah, I mean, I don't like the idea of, you know, taking the, for example, FPS model and putting a new story in it, new scenario, and that's it, new game. I honestly prefer when developers are trying to innovate in the gameplay as well. I mean, of course, there are many marvelous games that are, you know, reusing the same mechanics over and over again. I mean, a recent example of that is probably BioShock 3. I mean, BioShock 3 was an FPS, but yeah, it was an incredible game. Surely not because it had new incredible mechanics, even though they tried to innovate in some things, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, it was more for the story, for the narrative, and for the setting, for the atmosphere, you know. But I still think gameplay should be, you know, the backbone of everything, of a game. So, well, next question. What distribution platforms do you prefer to use? Well, I only used Steam so far, and, well, it went pretty well. So, yeah, I'd say it's my favorite. What's your favorite platform to develop for? Same. I only develop for computer. So yeah, at the moment I'm a bit scared about the idea of developing for a console. It sounds much easier to develop for mobile, and that's probably something I will do in the future. But yeah, at the moment I'd say computer is my natural environment. So, regarding game development in your country, are there a lot of companies trying to make a living by creating video games? Would you suggest to someone trying to pursue a career in video games to move here? No. Honestly, no. Because, yeah, there are many important companies in my country. I mean, we have a Ubisoft studio in Milan, we have Milestones, we have other companies, and many others that are like smaller and trying to mainly develop mobile games, and but yeah, at the same time, at the moment there's not really a reason to move to Italy to develop games. Well, aside from the nice weather. But yeah, we don't have funds dedicated to games or anything like that. We don't have any kind of support actually. And the support for, you know, enterprises is not exactly excellent in general. So yeah, not really a smart move to move here at the moment. How hard was it to get on Steam? Well, I briefly talked about it before. Well, not really briefly actually. But yeah, everything went smooth for me. It was my first attempt and it was a success. I mean, I guess it wasn't the same for many other people, but yeah, probably it was like that for me, because it was a step-by-step process. You know, I made the Indiegogo campaign, I had the trailer, I had the cover picture, I already had people following me, knowing my game, and yeah, after that it was innovative and people liked that, and yeah, that's it. So next, what do you think about Steam Greenlight? Or we should say the dying Steam Greenlight, because I heard that they want to replace it with another system, a fee system. Alright, I actually liked Steam Greenlight. I mean, I understand it's probably not the best system possible, and yeah, it should have been refined, probably, and I can understand why they want to change it, because Steam is overflooded with games at the moment. But yeah, I still think that by removing Greenlight we will miss some amazing games, because, you know, not every game start as an investment, as, you know, even my game probably would not have been on Steam if it wasn't for Greenlight, because, you know, at the time I wasn't really thinking about, you know, making a business out of this game, making money with the game. So yeah, probably without Greenlight you would have missed my game. So what do you think about Steam Workshop? Did you use it so far? Do you plan to use it? Do you think that can increase lifespan of a game? I haven't used it so far. I of course think it can increase the lifespan of the game. I was thinking about implementing you know, an editor of the levels and things like that, but at the moment I'm a bit divided. There are many things going on in my life, so not sure. As an indie developer, would you like to sell your games retail? And what do you think about digital and retail releases? Well, at the moment I don't feel very encouraged to think about retail. I mean, of course, I would like my game to be in a display, and I would like people to be able to see it in shops, but I'm not interested. I think retail is slowly dying, and one day we will not probably use it anymore. I mean, I'm not sure how distant this day is, but I'm quite confident it will arrive at some point. What avenues of monetization do you consider for your projects? In-game purchases, DLC, subscriptions? Alright, so first, I'm not a big fan of in-game purchases, but they can be done in a ethic and good way, I think. I'm not a fan of the pay-to-win games, let's say, or, you know, the games that are working a bit like gambling, you know, they're kind of hacking your brain and making you want that resource that you have to buy. I don't like that. I don't like that very much. Regarding DLC, I think there are good DLCs and bad DLCs, but I don't condemn the DLC in general, and I would consider doing DLC for my game, for example. No problem in that. What's your take on VR? Is it something you'd want to develop for in the future, or do you see it as a fad that will fade soon? Well, of course, I'm interested in VR and the possible, you know, innovation that can bring to the world of games. On the other hand, I think, you know, it's not gonna revolutionize the industry, at least not now, not like in the recent history, in the recent future, in the near future. Mainly because I think games revolves around other things. Like I said, gameplay first. All the rest is, yeah, following. But yeah, I don't want to exclude that one day when it's going to be affordable for everyone, it's going to be the main thing, and games will be, you know, tailored around it, and you will be able to feel and move and do everything as you were in real life. That's probably, yeah, the distant future, but to be honest, in the near future, I still see people preferring looking at a TV screen because it's handier, more comfortable. You can, yeah, you can probably stay on the couch in the meanwhile. So yeah, that's my take on that. Let's see the next question. So moving on to next question. If some big publisher contacts you to propose a deal for your game, would you consider it? Yes, I would probably, but I wouldn't compromise too much, let's say, on the nature of the game. But yeah, I'm kinda open to mild compromises. Regarding AAA games and indie games, what's your opinion on these two kinds of games? Sorry, my screen is like trembling. What's my opinion? Yeah, I mean, there are two different words, and sorry for voices coming from outside. There are two different words, but it's pretty interesting to see how recently they're trying to converge, because today there are indie games that are not really indie because they are supported by publishers, and there are AAA games that, no, let's say AAA companies, let's say, that are trying to develop their indie style kind of games. I'm referring to things like Life is Strange, for example. And so I see these two words like converging, trying to exchange information. That's really interesting. What I think is that AAA games are like the foundation of the industry, and indie games are like the scouts, because because of the nature of these games, you can afford to take more risks because they are generally smaller projects. They require less money, and you know, if you try something new and crazy and you fail, it's not a very big deal. But if you would try something like that with a AAA game, you may end up wasting a lot of money and complicating the life of many employees. So yeah, that's my take. Next question. How well do you believe your game needs to sell in order to let you continue your work full time? Let's say simply way better than this. In your opinion, what's the best way to promote your game? Demos, social media, bundles, free weekends, YouTubers? I'd say all of that. I mean, you need to be everywhere at the same time. I mean, a game is successful, in my opinion, when everyone is talking about that. I mean, probably the spreading the word is the best way to advertise yourself. YouTube is doing a great job with that. But yeah, I mean, it's not enough because, for example, my game was reviewed by many YouTubers, not really the most famous ones, but some YouTubers, but that wasn't enough. There wasn't enough to bring people to buy my game. When do you think it's necessary to advertise the game? I'd say at the beginning, of course, before the release, because like as I said before, the release moment is the golden moment, is the very moment in which you will sell your game. Like the first week is the most important week. The first week after the release. So, how are you affected by reviews? I think reviews are particularly important on Steam, and I think they are making or breaking your game, especially at the very beginning. And yeah, luckily I had some good reviews at the very beginning, and I think those really encouraged people to buy and try my game. And you know, especially reviews from creators are really important. So it's really important to you know, attract the attention of these people to your game. What do you think about crowdfunding on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or other similar methods? As I said, I started an Indiegogo campaign before publishing the game. Unluckily, it didn't went very well, but I think it was a really useful tool to make people aware about the game and to make people invested in the game early on. And in general, I think it's a great tool to allow great ideas to to be developed and to be brought to the world. What do you think? No. Moving on. What was your first game released? How has it been received by the public? Did you think that being an indie developer was the right choice, or did it make you consider it? Well, so let's say my first game was my only released game at the moment, and I'm still considering if, you know, continuing with my indie game developer life or trying to find a job. I'm still considering my possibilities. I would just say that even if I didn't sell enough to, you know, sustain a career, I think it's normal that this happens with your first game released, because only in really rare cases your first game will be an absolute success. I think you have to build your career step by step, and you have to start somewhere. So I'm not really discouraged by the fact that my game didn't sell enough at the moment. I'm more focused on making people aware about me, about my games, about my passion, my style, my ideas. And I think that's the most important thing for the beginning of a career. How many games have you worked on in the past? Well, the other games I worked on were just, you know, games I made in a demo form or never really completed. But on the other end, I also worked on some interesting project during my time at Abertay. I think the most striking example is Beings, a game that I developed together with other 3 people in occasion of the Make Something a Real Life contest. And the theme of the contest was to make a game based on genetic. And that was a really interesting coincidence, because I've always been really keen on genetic. That was probably the most interesting subject I studied back in the days in which I was studying medicine. And it's really weird, because when I came to Abertay, I was already thinking about making a game based on genetic. And then what happened? I discovered there was a contest based on that, and I felt like I had to take part to that. And even if I didn't have this many skills at that time, I managed to gather a team. I worked together very talented programmers and artists. And what we ended up developing was absolutely astonishing. And you know, it was a really interesting experience, and we ended up being third in the contest. And I still think we managed to develop a really interesting demo, which is showing how the game is supposed to work. And I will remember that experience for the rest of my life, that's for sure. That was a really interesting experience. What were the obstacles you faced during development? How did you overcome them? Well, let's say that in my experience with solo development, one common problem you can have is lack of motivation, because there are moments in which you are really energetic, dynamic, and you really enjoy what you're doing, and everything is fine and everything is smooth. And there are other moments in which you don't really want to continue working on the project. You don't want to, I don't know, do that particular animation, or you don't want to have to deal with UI, or you don't want to have to deal with marketing. But yeah, I'd say you have to force yourself to get through those moments. Those are the obstacles along your path. But if you manage to, have the self-confidence and the commitment to overcome these problems, then you can go a long way as a developer, because of course developing is also about overcoming these very common problems. What lessons have you learned from development? Well, many different lessons, I guess. The first one that I think about is that you have to think in advance things as much as possible. You will never be able to think everything in advance, but you don't want to find yourself making changes when the game is basically done. And so my advice is like starting from the basis. You need to have a solid core mechanic. You have to be sure it's working properly, and you have to test it even before developing all the rest. And you have to try to have a clear idea of where you're going, what you're trying to obtain. And so that's why I think having a complete design is really, really important. I don't really like the idea of starting and then, making changes along the path. And I mean, you're always going to be forced to do that, but you have to try to limit that as much as possible. What game are you working on right now? Well, let's say that at the moment I'm not working on a game, because I also have a side project. With some friends we are developing an app for smartphone, and I can only say it's gonna be some kind of social network based on maps, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. But I'm also considering creating a sequel of Fearful Symmetry, because as some people stressed out, I think there is a lot of potential behind the simple idea of the symmetry, and I think there are many mechanics that can be explored and that can be created starting from that. So I'm totally considering making another game based on that. What do you think about piracy from these days? Probably many developers see it as something bad, but do you think that people practicing it would buy your games at all without piracy? Did you think that you could somehow take advantage of it as an advertising method? Probably yes. I mean, it can work as an advertising method for some games, I guess. It may not work for other games. I mean, I feel pretty safe with my game because it's not really costly at all. Next question, have you thought about what your next game will be? Well, we already talked about that, so I will not repeat myself. In the end, did your games win any award? If so, for what? No, it didn't, because I didn't take part to any contest yet. So, what's your greatest achievement so far as a game developer? Let's say that my greatest achievement is having heard someone telling me thank you for having shared your creation with the world. That was really, really rewarding. That's probably one of the best things you can say to a developer. So what's the game you've always wanted to make if budget wasn't an issue? Well, that's a big question. Probably something, you know, along the lines of a Zelda game, because, you know, I imagine this big world and full of secrets and full of things to do, many features, many interesting possibilities, and of course the recurring feeling that I want to convey, like exploration, mystery, and even like experimentation. I'm really keen on experimentation, like those games that allow you to really experiment with the elements you have. So yeah, something like that, I'd say. So in your opinion, how is the gaming industry doing at this moment, and where do you see it going? Well, gaming industry is very dynamic and it's always evolving, and one of the things you can notice is that it is getting bigger and bigger every year. One thing you can obviously notice is that nowadays there is a lot of interest in casual gamers, because you know, mobile devices are bringing games to many people that weren't interested in games at all before. So I think at the moment there is some kind of struggle to convert everyone to a gamer. I think that's it. And I think that in the future everyone will be playing something. Mainly yes, because you can nowadays play on anything, and like I said, mobile phones. Yeah, I see that. I think game industry will never struggle with, will never really be in a real crisis, because it will evolve, it will change, but it will not die. That's for sure. So what plans do you have for the future? That's an interesting question, because I have no idea. I recently adopted the philosophy of not thinking about the future too much. So, you know, at the moment I'm working on my projects, on my personal projects, but maybe tomorrow I will find a job, or, you know, maybe in the gaming industry, maybe in another industry. We will see. I don't want to make plans. For sure, rather than career plans, I'm making plans on improving myself as a person, as a developer. I really like to learn new skills to basically unlock new possibilities. Even, I don't know, learning a new language can be something like that. Learning a new language kind of unlocks you new locations, if you want to see that in a very gamey way. But yeah, that are my plans for the future. Continuously improve myself, continue to work on my projects as much as I can, and continue to evolve as a developer. That's it. So if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice when you were just starting out, what would that be? Well, I don't honestly know, but probably something along the lines of try to exploit your motivation, your passion as much as possible, because that's a really rare energy we all have, and I think we are working at our best when we manage to convey this energy in the right place. Question: what games did you enjoy playing in 2016? Well, I briefly mentioned that before, but yeah, I kind of discovered the Dark Souls series. I enjoyed a lot of indie games like Undertale, and especially The Witness. I will not stop saying that The Witness, it's really worth everyone's attention. One of the greatest game ever, I think. So my final message to people who want to develop games, or people in general, I'd say, I think one important thing is to try to stick to your passion as much as you can. Try to find that inner energy that can lead you to great things, but at the same time cultivate discipline, because that's the only way to convey this energy in the right way. And so yeah, that's my final message, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I didn't distract you too much with my weird Italian gestures and my accent. So thank you for watching, and you can follow me on Instagram, or yeah, if you're interested in contacting me, you can even find me on Facebook, or yeah, you can find my email somewhere as well. My portfolio is in the description as well. I'm sure it is. Alright, so yeah, goodbye to everyone, and thanks again to GaminGHD.
Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, please consider watching some of our other videos and maybe sharing them or giving a thumbs up if you feel like it. And if you really liked what you saw, please check out our Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you could help us make much better shows and get some rewards in the process.